Right, again. All
There
right,
it is.
third time's the charm.
That's right.
So, hey everybody, it's the Noise Brigade off to a great start. Um, I'm Bobby. He's Tom. Tom, how the hell are you?
I am good, man. Just trying to honestly, where we're at in our part of the country. So far we've had the tornadoes and all that fun stuff the last month or so, couple months, and now we are looking at a possible ice storm in 2 days. So it just, we're just trying to keep an eye on things.
Oh, so the hits keep coming.
That's right.
Wonderful. So, we actually down here in the quote unquote, as little Nicky would put it, the deep South. God, that was a terrible little Nicky impersonation. I'm going to jail for that one.
He's a
Um,
hard one to do impersonation of, though.
I normally feel like I do a pretty good one, but this one, that was terrible. I'm fired. Um, but yeah, we've had when I drove home the other day, it was 33 degrees here in sunny Florida. So
Wow.
now that made me super happy because I'm weird and I miss the cold. I miss winter. Um, the people who pay money to live down here when it's cold up north, most of them weren't too happy. Neither were the people who grew up down here and were like, "Yeah, why are you such a psycho? Why do you like it when it's cold?" Um, so yeah, so it's been some interesting. We had some tornadoes too. We had the supposed earthquake, a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago. So
it just keeps racking it up.
yeah, so we'll see what now. Meanwhile, I think like tomorrow or the next day, it's supposed to be like 80 for a couple days. So the weather down here is out of
Yeah,
control.
it's
So
it's bananas.
yeah,
But
but
yeah,
that's
we're
not
not.
what we're here to talk about.
No, we're not weathermen, and we're not gonna pretend to be. But we are doing. Let's see, we did a great two-parter on the Microsoft acquisition of Activision and Blizzard.
Yes.
We talked about it ourselves in the first round, and the second round we brought in some friends to kind of discuss that.
And the most
And
important thing, don't forget, we broke the news of big beefy shooty boys.
that was, and that's the best thing that came out of both of those, man. That's
Right.
breaking news. I mean, I really haven't seen it hit anywhere else. I mean, we still own that one.
Right. Well,
Um,
that's because we had the exclusive scoop. My insider really, really, scraped the bottom of the barrel and got that. Wait, scraped the bottom of the barrel? No, not that. Yeah, no. Anyway, so yeah, we did our Activision Blizzard Microsoft acquisition pod. Like you said, we had our guests, but and this one wasn't really, we had just gone through and made a new list of things we want, topics we wanted to talk about, and um then this came up, which looks like Sony has bought the house of Halo itself, Bungie.
yeah, well, it's just absolutely wild. And the timing is everything. So of course, the immediate reaction of reporters and fans alike, just people in the video game world, that weren't, really, I guess, inside knowledge, if you will, really thought this was a knee-jerk reaction to the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and it certainly seems like that on the surface.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
but it's not. I think you and I were chit-chatting about it. This has been kind of going on for a while, apparently.
Yeah, and it makes sense, and it makes a lot of things that have happened over the past couple months have kind of, they make a lot more sense now with like, so I don't know how into Bungie's catalog you are, but Destiny is their big, that's their, which ironically enough was made when they joined Activision. When Bungie joined Activision, they collaborated and they made Destiny, and then
Hmm.
the new one, Destiny 2. And so Destiny 2 is the big project that Bungie's still working on, and they're getting ready to roll out the Witch Queen, which is their newest expansion, which is their first expansion that they've done under the new way that Destiny's rolling without Activision. This is just completely under their purview, no supervision from any other company. And but what's interesting is right in the lead up to it, is Bungie's 30th anniversary. So in Destiny 2, they've been doing a lot of 30th anniversary events. And one of the things they wanted to do was kind of call back to some of their older properties. So there's some stuff from Marathon, which was one of their very first games. It was on the Macintosh. I forget what the other one was. I want to say it was like Mythic or
It
something like
might just be
that.
Myth. I think it's just called Myth.
Myth. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's Myth. And so they put these little Easter eggs in Destiny as like special weapons and armor and stuff you can get. And then there's three items, well, four items really, if you count the one that I just can't get. Um, but there's four items that were added that are homages, but not exactly. And like if you know Halo, you know exactly what you're looking at. But
Right.
it's just different enough that it's not copyright infringement. And you know, it was kind of weird. People were like, "Wow, why won't Microsoft let Bungie use that stuff? That would be really cool, like some cool cross promotion, especially with Halo Infinite coming out." Um, and it's the battle rifle, the hand cannon, which was the original pistol, and then there's two swords that if you link them together, it would make the energy sword that the elites have. One of them is called Half Truths, and the other one is called The Other Side. And like you can't mistake this stuff. If you look at it, you know what it is. Um, you know exactly what it is. But it was just kind of weird that like they couldn't get together to make that happen. And then maybe it was partially because of this. Maybe it wasn't necessarily that Microsoft was like, no, we don't want Bungie to use it. Maybe it was, well, we don't want Bungie to use it, and then PlayStation or Sony walls us off from having Destiny, and then we've got Halo stuff showing up in a game that we don't have anything to do with.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I'm going to kind of back up and do a little bit of a historical thing on this, just to kind of catch people up on how weird this really is with this Sony acquiring Bungie today, or announcing it today, I should say. Uh, Microsoft, as you kind of we talked about here, and I'm going to throw this other note out. Let's go back to Halo real quick. This is kind of where this all comes about. As far as really getting interesting, if you will. You made mentions to the Destiny allusions to Myth and Marathon and so forth. But if you go into when Bungie Bungie had announced its next product being at that game at that time was Halo Combat Evolved, and we've already touched on that a little bit because you obviously you see Halo, you know what it is, and now it's got a television series now, Paramount Plus.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, but here's the crazy thing. I thought this was really interesting. And this is like readily available information. I'm just kind of fudging off of this and reading the Wikipedia, but it's still to me very worth stating. Halo was originally intended to be a third-person shooter for computers. Here's the
For
crazy
Mac.
thing. Yeah, exactly. The public unveiling was at Macworld 99, and the keynote address was by the interim CEO, Steve Jobs, which is really insane to think about because not more than a year later, Microsoft had actually acquired Bungie. And so that's where the history gets really interesting with this. So Microsoft acquired Bungie in 2000. Bungie split back off of Microsoft in 2007, but in 2010 had signed, and you had kind of talked about this already, in terms of the publishing deal with Activision, because during that deal, as you mentioned, the Destiny games, were released. But in 2019, so fast forward 10 years there, give or take, Bungie announced that deal was ending. And so, that I think that's the crazy thing is that not 2-3 years ago, you had Bungie who just ended a partnership with Activision, who Activision just gets bought by Microsoft, and here you are with Bungie getting bought by Sony.
Right.
It's a really lot to think about, a lot to take in. If you follow the history of that,
And it's funny to me because I had almost mentioned during our episode that almost said, the next logical step to me is Microsoft brings Bungie home. But knowing what I knew about Bungie and how they it seemed like they valued their independence. I couldn't see them allowing themselves to be bought by anybody. And then here comes Sony and scoops them up. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah, and really, like you said, I mean that's a logical fit. I mean, Bungie is the original developer of Halo, so I mean, that is it's a perfectly logical fit that one would assume, like, you know what, they're going to be a Microsoft property. Um, money talks. I don't know. Either that, or you and I go down this road and have tried to connect things to wrestling. But maybe there's something with, hey, you're bought, but we're going to leave you alone, and you still have creative freedom. I don't know.
Well, and
Uh,
that seems like, from the little bit of information that's come out, it seems like that may be the case, because it seems like Sony's kind of like saying, look, we're going to be hands off. We still want you to develop for whoever you want to develop for, and but at the end of the day, we own you. So Sony will probably end up getting some exclusive, either timed exclusive, like campaign stuff, or that kind of deal, where kind of like how they had with Call of Duty for a long time, where they were getting maps and stuff that Xbox players just either weren't getting, or they were getting on a delayed release schedule.
right, right. Yeah, it's akin to having a phone that's made by the developer, and you're getting instantaneous updates, and having a different brand with the same operating system, and then you're waiting, for everything to go through, the cell phone company basically, and you're having to wait a couple of months. It's the same kind of deal.
Right.
It's really interesting though. I do also kind of want to preface this too. This whole thing, we talked about it here kind of on top. Being a knee jerk reaction. Look, Sony's been buying up other properties. I'm not saying that these are as major as Bungie, but last year alone they got House Marquee, Blue Point Games, Fire Sprite, Nixies, and co-development studio Valkyrie. And there's some pretty heavy titles that all those places were involved with. Granted, they're a lot smaller studios, but look, they were still buying up properties. Not going to say it's under the radar, but in the realm of just what the normal person, a normal video game fan, they may not have picked up on all that, may not have been following. So they've been buying stuff. So this isn't anything new, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, and that's the thing. And people can try and spin it however they want, but at the end of the day, their jobs as the, I guess, the heads of the families of the Xbox and PlayStation brands is to try and strengthen that brand as much as they can. And what better way to strengthen those brands than by bringing in known talent and known developing houses with known properties and IPs. Um,
Right.
you know, everybody's looking for that next big IP, but what makes you money until the next big IP? The ones that came before.
Right.
So you make the money with those brand names, with those household names, and then you can use that money you've made to reinforce your other studios and develop new IPs, and hopefully just continue to make him money hand over fist. And that's what the name is. That's what the name of the game is. Let's not kid ourselves.
Oh yeah. No, it's all business, and that's the thing that just talking about here with how would Bungie just instantly become a Microsoft property, because that would make the most sense. Who knows, whether it's creative freedom, or maybe money does talk. I don't know. But there's got to be something to that. So these are all business decisions for a reason, whether that's to use the existing titles to keep on making money. We talked about that a bit with just looking at something what we would consider simple, but with part of the Activision Blizzard thing came the Candy Crush bit. So obviously that's going to keep making money left and right, but it also gets that money in, as you said, to afford to make new properties. So it's certainly interesting. And I think there's quite a bit of money to be made with Destiny, personally.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll go out right now. I have every single expansion for Destiny 2. I have pre-ordered the Witch Queen, which comes out I think the end of February. I know it's coming up. So there's, like I've said on here before, that's coming down. They're going to be vaulting a bunch of stuff. So most of my gaming time right now is spent trying to clean up, loose threads in that game. Um, and they've done a great thing where, the first Destiny came out, there were some expansions that came out, and then they were just kind of like, okay, well, we're gonna move on, and so they released Destiny 2. And Destiny 2 kind of changed up the game, and they've been good about taking their consumer criticism and kind of using it to reshape the game. So the game that's out now looks, I mean, the bones are the same. It's still recognizably Destiny, but it's nothing like it was when it first launched. And I can say that they've done a great job of revolutionizing what the game was between Destiny 1, Destiny 2, and what it is now. And it's more of a service game now, kind of like your World of Warcraft. So it's definitely a fun game, and it's definitely going to be a banner franchise for them. But it's going to be interesting to see where it goes now that they're under Sony's stewardship.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I think that does make it interesting. So, let me ask you. I mean, kind of, what do you think? Maybe, and we can't predict the future, but do you think they, keep the ball rolling with Destiny and just keep adding on the Destiny 2, or do you think they're like, you know what, we're going to actively develop, a sequel that can come out 3 to 5 years from now? What do you think?
I really, and this is what I think about this. So I think that they leveraged um, the console generations. I think the reason that they stepped away from Destiny and made Destiny 2 instead of just continuing to expand on Destiny uh, as it was is because you had people split between the Xbox 360 and PS3 and the Xbox One and the PS4, right?
Hmm.
And then over the course of the Xbox One and PS4's lives, you had the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro come out. So you're technically working with three different builds of system, right?
Right.
Three different sets of specs. So I think that setting off with Destiny 2 and saying, all right, we're gonna kind of square things away here. This is Destiny 2, it's Xbox One, it's PS4, and now obviously it's PS5 and Xbox Series X or S, depending upon what you have. Um, so I think that's a long way of me saying that I think the next one, probably the next Destiny you're going to see, if there's going to be a three, won't come out until we start hearing rumblings of either the the pro versions of these systems that we have out now, or maybe even until we see a whole nother generation of systems. Um, I mean,
That
and
that that's a
and I
fair
say that
point.
now. I say that now, not knowing exactly what the Witch Queen will bring, because that with that expansion, it's going to bring sweeping change to the game. They're vaulting a bunch of content. They're changing a whole bunch of stuff. They're getting rid of a whole bunch of currencies and kind of trying to streamline things. So I've been trying to stay kind of um, aside from knowing what I need to complete before it's gone. I've been trying to stay in the dark as to what it's going to bring. So I haven't been looking at a whole lot of info on it.
Hmm.
Um, but it looks like it's going to be basically a soft reboot for the new systems as far as
Okay.
for everything that's been going on. So should be interesting. I'm hoping it's good, especially since I pre-ordered it. Um, you know, I'm kind of invested.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding, no kidding. And I got into Destiny 2 for a bit, for quite a while there, but I'm not going to say I lost interest, but I found other things to play. So I'm not nearly the fan that you are, but it's a great game.
Oh yeah.
It's certainly fantastic. I just, I've talked about it on here. I devoted way too much time to Skyrim, so. um,
Well, that was how it was. Like when Destiny 2 first came out, I played it for probably the first year that it was out. maybe a little bit less than a year, but I played it pretty religiously when it first came out, and then I just got tired of it because I felt like it was the same. As much as I loved the original Destiny, and I was in on the alpha and the beta, like I it eventually, when Destiny 2 came out, I'm like, I just paid $60 for the same game, like to reset
Right,
my
right.
progress for the same game. So I hadn't played it, and then I want to say like November maybe, when we got the Series X, I had gone to Five Below and they had Destiny 2 for $5. I'm like, well, screw it. I'm gonna grab Destiny 2 for me and Peyton. We'll have a little bit of fun with it. It was $5, no big deal. But it sucked me right back in. So
Nice.
I'd been gone from the game for like 3, 4 years. It was completely different from when I left it. All my I don't want to say all my progress was gone, but that's pretty much what they did. Is they kind of did like a world wiping almost.
Hmm.
So it was very interesting to step back into it after being gone for I think it was 3 or 4 years.
No, that's pretty cool, man. I find the same with certain games over time, where you play it at first and then you kind of get tired of it, and then you go back into it a little bit later, and there's been an update or something's happened where it's like, you know what, this is actually fun to play, whether it's an expansion pack or whatever, and that does happen. But let's see here. So, I just want to kind of run through a couple things here. Um, and then I want to get into fun stuff about, who might be next. Um, I did want to kind of a note here. I made mention of one of Sony's acquisitions last year in the terms of the developer Firesprite. Now, I thought was really interesting because I didn't know this. But Firesprite was founded about 10 years, well, right at 10 years ago in 2012. And the studio is actually staffed by some developers that were part of the original Studio Liverpool when it was called Psygnosis. And the neat thing about that is the 5 people in the studio's core leadership team had been known to have worked on games for every single PlayStation console up to that point. And Psygnosis was most well known for the Wipeout series, which I thought was really interesting because it's that I think that's the fun part about looking at some of this stuff is that it kind of all kind of goes back around to these developers that either went through a name change or they were there was a buyout at some point, kind of like the history stuff between Bungie and Microsoft and Activision deal. I thought that was another interesting thing. So that was a note. But now, kind of into that same vein, though, some of these other first party studios that Sony has, and all these are, I can't say they're household names, but I just want to throw a few out here. Um, One of their first party studios, and I didn't even realize this, was Ben Studio, which is known for the Days Gone. Did you ever play that game?
No, that's one that I just stayed away from. I'm thinking of The Last of Us, but no, I haven't played
Right.
Days Gone either.
I want to say, yeah, and actually, Sony's first party studio, also Naughty Dog, they're the ones that were the Last of Us folks. I played a bit of The Last of Us, and I didn't care for it. It was too linear for me, for the type of game. Days Gone is completely the polar opposite, and it's such a fantastic game with a fantastic storyline. It's fun to play. That's when I went start to finish. I love that game. Um, I said they've acquired Blue Point last year. That they released the Demon Souls remake. I've tried to play that. That is, as you said to me off pod, ridiculously hard, and boy, it is.
Yeah, yeah, that
So
I'm out on the Souls games.
yeah, they also have Insomniac games, which well known for Ratchet and Clank, Marvel Spider-Man, Spider-Man Miles Morales. We won't get into all that too much, but that's a pretty big one.
Oh yeah, that's
Um,
huge.
Polyphony Digital, which is well known for Gran Turismo, which there's a new one of those coming out just a few days before my birthday. So I've already asked Danielle for that for my birthday. And then, San Diego studio, MLB The Show, and there's just some others there. So it's not like Sony was, getting Bungie like, oh yeah, we finally got our first studio. No, there's some well-known names that are associated there, and I didn't even get in all of them. I just wanted to kind of paint a picture of Bungie is just going to be part of, a lot a lot of other studios that they already have. So I think it's a great addition. Um, Now, here's the fun part. Yeah, and this can be we can rattle this off and just kind of throw down notes, but the Sony PlayStation CEO, and I believe he's also the president of Sony Interactive Entertainment, Jim Ryan, has stated that they will be buying more studios. So I say to you, as Goldberg would say, who's next?
I was really hoping you were going to throw the Goldberg in there.
Who's next?
I have a feeling, and it pains me to say this. I have a feeling Sega is next. As much as I was hoping that it would be Microsoft, um, I don't know, man. I got a feeling, as the Black Eyed Peas would say, and that was bad. That was a reach. That was a really bad reach.
Don't
I'm
worry.
gonna show myself out.
I cracked a bureau to cover that one for you.
Cool. I appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I think Sega. Um, I figured if Microsoft was going to make a play for them, it would have happened by now. As much as I would love Nintendo to buy them, I don't see that happening. But I do think that they're going to get bought by someone. And if it's not going to be Microsoft and it's not going to be Nintendo, then that leaves really one option, unless Disney buys them. But I don't think Disney has any intentions on buying them.
No, Sega, I was like you. I really hope that Nintendo would grab them up. And I only say that in the sense of more for the nostalgia. Don't get me wrong. I love to see Sega, produce and develop some new and great content. But, if you do the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, you get access to some Sega Genesis content. And if Nintendo outright purchases Sega, I could see just an massive influx, more so than that's already on there. And there's some content in the eShop. Don't get me wrong, but and there's been a lot of collaboration over the years with Nintendo and Sega. And I'm being simplistically too, like how many years of Mario and Sonic at the Olympics do we have, and those sorts of things. But I think it's just more of me reminiscing and knowing the wars that Nintendo and Sega had when we were kids, and wanting to say, look, I just want the buyout to happen from Nintendo, because it obviously is not going the other way. And I just think that would be to me that would be it.
Well, wouldn't that be the swerve of all swerves? Is Sega ends up buying Nintendo?
Yeah, that's boy, that would be. Breaking news, everyone.
Dreamcast 2, it's happening.
Yeah. Oh, Dreamcast 2, we've got a Saturn coming your way. Except it's called the Jupiter this time.
Yeah.
It's bigger and it's angrier.
And it's filled with gas.
Yeah, exactly. The Sega Jupiter, everyone. The Sega Jupiter.
Yeah, Sega Jupiter. Hey, that may be the platform that Big Beefy Shooty Boys ends up getting released on.
Actually, that's the breaking news. I was gonna hold it for the end, but we might as well say it now. Big Beefy Shooty Boys exclusive to the Sega Jupiter.
See, that's perfect. That's perfect. Microsoft chose to ignore us on the social medias, so now we're taking our talents to South Beach. And by South Beach, I mean the Sega Jupiter.
That's right. That's it's gonna be a great system. That's why we wanted to get the game over there, and
yeah, it uses a Switch as a controller, and it's two Xbox Series X's and a PS5 duct taped together, and it's
and Sega's is just painted on the side.
Yeah, spray painted.
Exactly.
And it's definitely not, but that Sega is definitely not just a crackhead crouch behind your couch. Every time you turn it on, it's that doesn't the no crackheads when you do your end user license agreement, it doesn't say that a crackhead can come sit behind your couch and yell Sega every time you turn it on. That's totally not part of it.
No, no, nope. No, it's it actually somewhat says it sometimes.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
You know,
you gotta be nice to it.
yeah, you gotta be nice. Yeah, because if you don't look, crackheads will cut you.
That's right. And
You know,
this one may or may not come with one. Just
and
depends
if
on
it's
if you're
it,
nice.
you gotta be nice. You don't want to make them surly. You know, it's just pretend it's okay. Just be cool. Just be cool.
Oh man. All right.
Look,
So look, Sega is a possibility here. If I were to tell you though, your prediction 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, Sony by Sega.
I'm going with a strong 9.
Okay. Wow. All right. All right. That's a fair assessment. I think I you know I have a hard time in my head wrapping around a Sony acquisition of Sega, but I'm definitely with you on that. I could certainly see it happening. Um, and I think it would be a just completely different property for them to add to their portfolio, if you will. So
Yeah,
something different. Look, we talked about this off pod a little bit getting into this. I'm just going to mention it here. There's been a little bit of smoke, whether this is legitimate or not. I'm not going to say. I don't know. I'm not an insider. Um,
you're not
no, no, only with the Sega Jupiter and Big Beefy
okay.
Shooty Boys. Um, Electronic Arts, better known as just EA. There's been some interesting things coaxing around Twitter and Hollywood Reporter about, hey, look, Activision buys, or excuse me, Microsoft buys Activision Blizzard, and then, it's like, okay, who does Sony grab up? And again, a lot of this is speculation, but this was before the Bungie deal was announced, and there's supposedly a little bit of smoke with Sony going after EA. I think there's a high probability that something like that does happen, and I only say that in the sense of that's a huge get if they do.
Right, right.
And I'm not saying that that's a more than a Bungie thing. At this point in time, it probably is, just based off of EA's past track record and still current developments and what they produce. But boy, that'd be a shot to Microsoft if they had pulled that one off.
Oh yeah, that's a shot across the bow of the entire gaming industry if they manage to pull that coup. And that would be one where I would think they would end up getting some concessions from Microsoft in order to keep EA games on Microsoft systems. Because
Oh
let's
yeah.
face it, we're not going back to the days of NFL Fever on the Xbox produced by Microsoft. That's those days are long gone. Thank God, because that game was friggin' butt cheeks. Um, but like, although although Sony buys Microsoft, or Sony buys Microsoft. Sony buys EA. EA no longer has the NFL license. Microsoft buys Sega. Sega brings back 2K.
Ooh, well, that'd be awesome,
Wouldn't that be some stuff?
man. Man, that would be sweet. And I'm just sitting
Yeah.
over here hoping for a Tecmo.
Honestly, listen. All right, so I had the one for DS that came out, the most recent one that came out for Nintendo DS. I forget what it was like Tecmo Bowl Kickoff or something like that. A good game, okay, I guess. Not what we remembered, but I'm definitely down for a new Tecmo Bowl.
I'm only down for it is if it's exactly like the Tecmo Super Bowl. And
Oh
and you
yeah,
know what? Here's a sad thing in my head. I realize that there are people that mod it and they mod it to death and they update the rosters. And there's even people that actually sell the cartridge with updated rosters, which is kudos. I think that's fantastic. I don't know why. I just in my head, I think I need that from like a gaming company to be mass produced, just so I can walk into a store and look at it and be like, "You see that? That's Tecmo Super Bowl 2022."
Yeah.
And
Hey,
it's the
listen,
same game
no,
as 1991.
I am 100% on board with that. That needs to happen as far as I'm concerned. So I'm with you.
uh,
You're not going to get any arguments from me.
so okay, now who do you think then next? We've mentioned Sega, we've mentioned EA. Who's who would be next?
So I'm going to cheat and I'm going to steal one from your run sheet that you did, and I'm saying Square Enix because honestly, the fact that they haven't been bought um, by Sony yet kind of still astounds me because I associate Square Enix with Sony. I still view them as like back from the PlayStation days, like the original PlayStation days. I still just view them as, oh, that's a company that makes games for PlayStation.
Yeah, they're known for a couple smaller games. Something with fantasy in the title. That escapes me. What is that game?
Um,
Is it Last
no,
Fantasy?
no, I think
The
it was Forever Fantasy.
Forever. Okay, that's right. That's
Yeah. And I think
right.
they
Yeah.
made a game about a quest. It was
Uh,
Goblin Quest,
yeah.
Drake
Something.
Quest. Uh,
Something like that. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
huge. That would be a huge get. Square Enix is ridiculous for what they've produced. And look, I've not played every Square Enix title, um, but every single one that I have played, oh my gosh, just the Final Fantasy games alone. I mean, what more could you want? It's
A, a
insane.
good a good Avengers game.
Well, yeah, uh, you know, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But no, it's crazy. They have produced some of the most iconic titles over the years, and I'm with you. I'm shocked that that hasn't happened with 5-10 years ago. Um, I think the thing that's crazy too is that it's such a long, well established company. Much like the two we've already mentioned, EA and Sega. There's a long history there of a lot of titles and a lot of money. So, and properties that will keep producing money from here until who knows when. So, I certainly think that that's a fair guess on who they go after. And if they, to me, I'm not saying that they'll end up with all three of these, but if they
No,
ended up with like one of the three, I think is huge. Just the three that we've mentioned so far.
right. No, I agree. And it's just it would just make the console war because let's face it, man, the console war, I feel like is a war in name only. I feel like more and more of these companies are working together. I mean, friggin' the show just came out or just got announced that it will be on the Switch this year. All right.
Really,
Yeah, yeah,
it's got
it's
to be
gonna
quite toned
launch.
down, obviously, right? I mean,
Oh, I would imagine. I would say it's hard for me to say it'll be like a cloud version, like some of the Square Enix games that have been released lately, but
hmm
I could see it some aspect of it being offloaded. Um, and it's still no matter what, it's going to be better than RBI baseball. But it's and I'm talking the updated version of RBI baseball because the old version is cool, but the updated one from
right.
MLB itself just sucks.
Oh, terrible. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, when that game is coming out, and that has to do obviously with Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball saying, "Hey, listen, you're not going to restrict our profits on this video game to just your systems. We want it from everybody."
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so it's one of those situations where their hand was kind of forced, but you've got that kind of cooperation working across the board, and so I so to me the console war is, hey, it's more about people like you and I saying, oh, I like Xbox better, oh no, I like PlayStation better. The companies don't care. The companies are willing to do whatever it takes to make money. If that means working together, they're going to work together.
Oh, yeah. No,
So
100%. 100%. And I think, you know, I think part of it too for us is, like, you and I are just such big wrestling fans that we love to see that war between big organizations.
Right.
And that's, I think a lot of that boils down to it. But and you're not wrong. The console war is kind of gone, you know, a bygone era, if you will. Because look, let's face it, the technology is roughly the same in both of the current generation systems.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing too, though, is that you've got so many people now, especially in the esports world, that are. And I'm not saying that they're, you know, the console gaming is not there. It certainly is. You know, even to like Mario Kart and stuff like that. But a lot of your heavy duty games, I mean, it's all PC. So now you have this like whole realm of, and I think you and I discussed this about the Xbox X. It's a PC. I mean, it really
Yeah.
is. So yeah, it's just different now. The tech has increased so much, and now you have, like you mentioned, um, with the show, you have these other things too, like Stadia, where you're playing games online basically, but using other, you know, other equipment offsite, other servers, whatever, and you're still getting the experience without having this insane system in front of you. I'm not going to say it's the same. Of course, I'm not going to, but well, it's not going to be long until it is, you know, and that's just where it's headed. And you know, I'm looking at things now, and I find it kind of fascinating. With NVIDIA runs these programs now, where you can game, you know, using a Chromebook because you're connected to some web service. And it's crazy to think about, because like the Chromebook and some of these games we're talking about obviously would never run them, even if they were compatible. But the minute you throw it out in the cloud somewhere, here we go, game on.
Right. And isn't that basically what PlayStation Now is? Isn't it essentially just cloud gaming?
I'm pretty certain. I don't know that for certain, but I'm pretty certain you're right on that. But yeah, it's just crazy where it's gone. So yeah, while we sit here and speculate about who buys who, and is Sony going to buy this and whatnot, it's, you know, really at the end of the day, kind of a moot point, but still kind of interesting in the sense of, it's a what if they locked up a property and they said, you know what, you can get this game and this game, but we're taking all the legacy content and we're going on our service, and you're not having that. Yeah, you know, and that might be enough to force people to be like, oh man, maybe I should go buy a PlayStation.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I think that as long as there's money to be made, they'll kind of, I think that they'll just at this point let it fly, you know, and just let people play wherever they want as long as they're making money. And because you're going to see it with, like I said, my prediction for Xbox Game Pass, or whatever you want to call it, you know, Xbox Live, whatever you know, it's all going to be the same. It's all going to be the same service, and you're going to be able to play it on any system. I feel like by the end of 2025, you're going to be looking at people playing Xbox games on PlayStation as a downloadable service or as a streaming service, similar to PlayStation Now, similar to Google Stadia, you know, just like all that stuff. It's all going to be, things are going to be going to the cloud. As much as I hate it, because I'm a curmudgeon and I like physical media and I like to own what I'm, you know, what I pay money for. Um, it's the the way things are working is it's going to games as service and entertainment as service, just like Disney Plus and Netflix and Hulu. And it's going to be more or less irrelevant who you support, just as long as you support one of them.
Right. Like you said, it's the next logical step. And let's kind of talk about it this way, and maybe we'll throw down a couple of more possibilities as to, you know, who we think Sony might, you know, acquire here. Um, let's talk about it in terms of music, and file size, right? So, you know, back in our day, you could throw down and obviously, you know, buy a cassette tape. You could buy a compact disc or a CD. Kids, that's you know, those things. Or, you know, 20 years ago, or so, give or take, is when really get started just downloading MP3s, which is really the catalyst to starting off the kind of streaming services where we're at now. And I was obviously a big fan of buying, tapes and CDs and even a handful of records, which obviously, been around for a long time. But then, after I had acquired all these MP3s, and then you get into these streaming service things that are like, yeah, we're going to charge you a few bucks a month and you have access to, you know, more music than you could ever listen to in your entire life. And it's like, I was paying like $15 or $20 for 12 songs.
Right.
And it's crazy, really, if you think about it. And then, obviously, you kind of go in the same vein with movies. I can't tell you how many VHS tapes and DVDs I bought over the years, and Blu-rays and whatever. Um, you had these physical media things that you went out, and you're like, I saw the movie in the theater. You wait 3 or 4 months, it hits DVD, you want to get it day one. I can't tell you how many times I did that. And now it's like, yeah, you know what? I've got access to most everything because you have Netflix, Hulu, whatever other services, and it's out there. I'm not saying it's the same, but you get what I'm saying. It's a service that
Right.
has its own content. And again, you don't have anything physical you're sticking in anything. No cassette tape, there's no DVD, there's nothing. It's just click a button, it's done. And now you're at the video game point, and it's just now getting to the point where, as you mentioned, I firmly believe that Xbox is going to be playable on anything. That's really the next logical step, because everything else entertainment wise has already done that.
Right. And they have gotten so far ahead of the game on that too. If you think about back to the Xbox 360, right? Well, even let's go back to the Xbox, the original Xbox. The original Xbox out of the box has broadband support. It has a hard drive built in. It's wired for online gaming from day one. PlayStation 2, you had to buy a separate hard drive, and you had to buy or a hard drive and a separate broadband adapter and hook it up, and then you could play. Xbox has been at the forefront. Xbox 360 comes out. Xbox 360 dedicated servers, the Xbox Live service. You know, it had all this stuff. It was the first one. They're the reason why Netflix went to streaming. They're the reason why a lot of the streaming services came about and became popularized, because you could use them on the Xbox. Yes, PlayStation 3 with Sony, or Sony with PlayStation 3, had free online service, but it wasn't as good as what you were getting with Xbox Live. And
Right.
Xbox has been at the forefront the entire time. So it's only natural that they have this head start, and that they've kind of set the tone for what the future is going to be with it.
Right. And look, let's not discount some other stuff here. Other companies have trying to get into the fold. Um, Nvidia has a streaming service, and Google, as I mentioned, has one, Stadia. Are these ultra popular services? Of course not. But there's other companies that kind of see this as well, and they're doing the same thing. And well, I mean, even to a point, Nintendo has a little bit of that going on. But they have the library, and it's very easy to support their stuff that's online because they're not very big games. So,
Right, right.
uh, and up to now anyway, they haven't done anything that was, the groundbreaking, but they're doing it too. And it's just, it's really interesting to see where it's gone. So let's kind of circle back though to, we'll finish up this conversation of what if Sony buys next. Um, do you have any other names that you think of, or properties,
Uh
studios?
nothing really that jumps out to me, aside from maybe somebody like Capcom, or
Oh,
Konami.
that's interesting. Both of those. Hmm.
I mean, let's face Mega Man, aside from like the Mega Man, I think 10 and 11, and maybe I think a 12 came out. Like, they haven't been making any kind of real like attempt to make a new Mega Man game that people are actually paying attention to. And that franchise was one of the biggest franchises of the 80s and 90s. And now it's laid dormant basically for the past however many years. Yeah, we
Mhm.
got Mega Man Legends and Mega Man Legends 2 on the PlayStation, which I thought were, you know, controls aside, and the fact that it was a different take on the character. Um, I thought it was still pretty cool. I thought it was still pretty inventive, and I would have liked to have seen where the supposed Mega Man Legends 3 that was supposed to come out on the 3DS would have been cool to see where that would have gone. But I'd like to see that franchise reinvigorated. Castlevania, let's see another
Ooh.
Castlevania from Konami. Capcom pretty much at this point is steering. They're just paying attention to their Street Fighter and that kind of stuff. But they have so much more to offer to the gaming world, and I'd really like to see them kind of given. I don't know if it's because they're not getting a budget. I don't know if it's because they're not given resources. Whatever the deal is, let's see them really like set loose and set free to make some stuff, man. Because it used to be you couldn't walk into an arcade without bumping into 5 Capcom cabinets, and
Oh
now
yeah.
you know eh, you don't see that. So, and obviously, the arcades are gone, but I want to see more of a market presence from Capcom. I want to see more of a market presence from Konami. These classic games that they used to put out and still could again if they were given the opportunity.
So, speaking of classics, and I wanted to kind of personally mention this one because I was thinking about this, and this will kind of wrap around into a possible prediction here. I get to thinking about, and this came up when I was talking about Psygnosis, and I was looking at this, and it's funny. So, I was looking at Destruction Derby, which is one of my favorite PlayStation games, original PlayStation games, because it was just combat, you know, vehicles just run into each other. Just how can you not love that? But it was developed by a studio called Reflections Interactive, and it was actually published by Psygnosis. So that's where that kind of came back around. And then I was doing my research, and it said Reflections Interactive is now Ubisoft Reflections, which is obviously part of Ubisoft. And that name's been thrown around as a possibility. If you just do some, quick Google, and it'll show hear people saying it here and there. And I say that being a Sony acquisition, possibly. And they're known for some interesting titles too, so that'd be a good get. Um, you know, I think that'd be an interesting one. I don't know. What do you think on Ubisoft?
Yeah, let's get VR rabbits. Let's get the rabbits coming out for the PSVR, the
Hey
new one
man,
that's coming out.
hey, I'm down for that. It's I'm telling you, man, these are interesting. And the other one too, I just want to throw out at you, and you would put a note here. And I thought this was interesting. This kind of got mentioned in the same breath as Ubisoft was Take Two, and you had thrown this down. Who did they just buy?
They just bought Zynga.
Yeah, which look, Zynga's a lot like King. Zynga's been in the mobile platforming stuff for a long time, and boy, they got some titles there that make them money left and right, don't
Oh
they?
yeah, yeah. Words with Friends.
I'm
I
telling you,
I don't can't remember the other ones, but I know they have Words with Friends.
they come up a lot. And look, I don't know either, but I mean, I know I've played well more than one game other than Words, and I'm come and go with that game now. But hey, we would be remiss to say this though. The current most famous, speaking of acquisitions, the most popular word game right now, Wordle, is being acquired by the New York Times.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I just get into it. I just start playing it, and now it gets bought, and they're saying for now it's going to remain free, which means in 2 weeks you're going to have to pay for it. Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. Pay for it, or it'll be subsidized by some kind of stupid ads.
Right.
But yeah, no, the Take Two one is kind of interesting, mainly, and we could do a whole episode just on their background and what they produced, because Take Two has been part of some of the most famous games of all time. They have a lot of they're a parent company to a lot of big names.
Yeah. Yeah. To say the very least.
Little game called Grand Theft Car. Isn't that it?
That was Grand Theft
Or
Truck.
Truck? That's right. Grand Theft Truck. And then there's a horse game. But it's like based like I don't know Wild West times. Um,
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 I think
hmm,
it's orange half alive pistol.
something like that. Yeah, Just yeah, they're.
Do you
I don't
think
know,
anybody
man.
else besides us finds this part amusing?
Probably not. They probably think we're stupid.
It's freaking Red Dead Redemption, you idiots.
uh, what's Red Dead Redemption?
I don't know. Probably some mobile game.
Okay, that's what I thought too.
Definitely nothing
Uh,
that us hardcore gamers would play.
no. Uh, that's one of my favorite games. I love that game.
I still have not played it.
Oh man, they actually
So,
upgrade for PS5 as well, so I need to get on that.
my experience with it is when it was on the 360 and they released Red Dead Nightmare. Like I
Oh,
really
the
wanted a
zombie
cowboy
version.
zombie game,
Hmm.
and so I bought it and I played it for like 5 minutes. I'm like, screw this, and I stopped playing it. I have not played another game in the series ever since.
Really?
Yeah.
So I played the absolute tar out of all of them, but I got really stuck on the last one. Like, I was really into Red Dead Redemption 2, and I really got stuck on it. Like, I was not like, um, oh, I'm trying to think. I say stuck meaning like I would just roam the world, kind of like I was playing Skyrim, because I just wanted like, and I say like I would do crazy things. Like I just walk in the saloon and I would sit there and play. There's a dice game that you can play. I would just play it with like the guy sitting there for like an hour. Like I'm playing this like fantastic, one of the most beautiful, graphically intense games of all time, and I'm sitting there playing dice with somebody for like an hour at a time. It's the
Nice.
stupidest thing, but it was so addictive,
Hey
and, and
man.
and that's the part that makes that game so good. So I think I really do. I really think Take Two would be, and quite honestly too, that's another one. That some of these properties that you mentioned before, it's like, with the Square Enix stuff, it's like, why did this not happen already? It's
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like there's got to be something. There's got to be a reason that they haven't been bought yet, and I don't know what it is. But you would think that that would be a company that would just be ripe for like offer after offer. And so unless they just really value you know, their independence that much, you would think that though that the offers would have been ridiculous.
oh yeah, 100%, man. But yeah, here we are, and I think now it gets interesting. And this is certainly something we can part four if need be. Who's next? It's who does Microsoft grab? Who does Sony grab? Does Nintendo get into it a little bit, and maybe they shock somebody with an acquisition, or does something fall apart, or is there like we talked about earlier on this one,
Are
Bungie.
you suggest I can't even talk. See, it's not even worth it for the joke payoff now because you and I would get it, and maybe Mark if he listens. I was gonna say, are you suggesting that Nintendo might shock the system?
Yeah, man. Yeah, little undisputed era. That's a good.
Yeah,
That's a good joke about a year and a half ago.
yeah. But now, none of them are with WWE anymore, so it doesn't matter.
No, nope. All good.
Ugh.
Well, man, this one's been fun. I really love digging into, we look, you and I do the what if stuff every once in a while, and I just think that's fun. We threw this one together. We went for an hour, basically over two text messages.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, literally, like we talked for like you said, like two text messages, and then you sent me that, hey, stop talking. This is a podcast, and you dropped a friggin' full page of notes, and we went for an hour and like barely even touched what's in the notes. So this is it's been a good one, and I think there's definitely more to be mined out of this, and I think more information will be coming out in the next few days that will probably necessitate another podcast too.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Well, man, it's been fun.
Absolutely. Until next time, we have been the Noise Brigade. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out at doublewidecoffin.com. Check us out at bigbeefyshootyboys.com. Till next time, see you later.